The Finnish government has requested Elon Musk, owner of X, formerly Twitter, to provide user data related to an individual under investigation. They want Elon Musk to release some classified information to enable them investigate the activities of Simon Ekpa on social media. However, Elon Musk seemingly did not comply with Finland's request to release user data, possibly due to EU regulations protecting privacy. Meanwhile, the United States of America has deported 85 Nigerians to Lagos, with 116 others still in detention, prompting concerns from Nigerian officials about the handling of the process. In the southeast, Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State, Nigeria, has introduced a policy to arrest women seen in public without bras or panties, which has no legal backing in the Nigerian constitution. Meanwhile, the detained IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has stated he would rather die in detention than face trial under an illegal court. Nnamdi Kanu's brother, Prince Emmanuel Kanu, accused Southeast governors of not doing enough to secure his release, despite conditions set by the Nigerian president. Prince Emmanuel Kanu claimed that before the Nigerian presidential election, President Tinubu's son promised Nnamdi Kanu's release in exchange for political support, but this deal was not honored. I remember the day when I first heard about a set of news stories that carried me from the chilly corners of Finland to the lively and sometimes tumultuous scenes in Nigeria. It was one of those moments when the world seemed to shrink, and you suddenly realized that events occurring thousands of miles apart could be linked by the power of social media, politics, and the personal dramas of the individuals involved. I was sitting at my desk, scrolling through various news feeds, when I came across a report that described how the government of Finland had reached out to Elon Musk, the owner of X, which was formerly known as Twitter, about releasing classified user data. They needed this information to further investigate the online activities of a man named Simon Ekpa. The Finnish authorities believed that the digital footprints of this individual might hold crucial clues to activities that they suspected were in violation of the law. I found it fascinating to think that a social media platform, which I had long used to share my own thoughts and connect with friends, could suddenly become the focal point of an international investigation. The Finnish government, acting on its concerns and armed with the tools of modern technology, had specifically asked Elon Musk to provide all available details related to the social media activities of Simon Ekpa. It seemed that the authorities were determined to track down every digital interaction that this individual had engaged in, hoping that the data might reveal patterns or evidence that could support their case. In my view, it was a clear example of how digital privacy and government oversight sometimes come into conflict. On one hand, there is a strong argument for protecting an individual's privacy, especially in light of stringent European Union regulations that are designed to safeguard personal data. On the other hand, when a person is under investigation for potentially serious offenses, law enforcement agencies feel that they have the right to access this information to ensure that justice is served. I began to wonder about the delicate balance between privacy and security, and how companies like X, under the leadership of Elon Musk, were navigating these turbulent waters. The request from the Finnish government was not just a bureaucratic inquiry. It was a plea for information that might ultimately determine the fate of an investigation. However, despite the urgency of the matter, it appeared that Elon Musk had not complied with the request. The reason for this non-compliance seemed to lie in the strict privacy laws enforced by the European Union. These laws, which were created to protect the personal information of individuals in an increasingly connected world, sometimes create obstacles for governments trying to access data that could be used in criminal investigations. I found myself sympathizing with both sides. On the one hand, I understood the need for government authorities to have the information necessary to conduct their investigations thoroughly. On the other hand, I also respected the idea that people have a right to privacy, and that even when someone is under suspicion, their personal information should not be handed over lightly. As I continued to follow the story, another aspect of the news began to unfold, one that took me to a very different part of the world. Nigeria. In a surprising twist, I learned that the United States of America had deported 85 Nigerian nationals to Lagos, the bustling economic heart of Nigeria, while another 116 individuals were still being held in detention. This development was causing quite a stir among Nigerian officials, who were deeply concerned about how the deportation process was being carried out. It was a stark reminder that the complexities of immigration and international relations often result in outcomes that affect real lives. I could not help but feel a sense of empathy for the families of those being deported, who must be facing an uncertain future after years spent away from home. The idea that 85 individuals had been forced to return, while many more awaited a decision about their fate, painted a picture of an immigration system that was both rigorous and, in some ways, indifferent to the personal tragedies it could engender. The story took another dramatic turn when I read about events unfolding in the southeastern region of Nigeria. In a move that was as surprising as it was controversial, Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State announced a policy that would lead to the arrest of women who were seen in public without wearing a bra or panties. I was taken aback by this policy, as it seemed to be not only an extreme form of social control, but also completely at odds with the principles of personal freedom that many of us hold dear. In Nigeria, where the Constitution is supposed to safeguard the rights of all citizens, there appeared to be no legal foundation for such a decree. The idea that a government official could announce a rule that targeted women based on what they were wearing was to me both perplexing and disheartening. It made me wonder how such policies could be justified in a modern society, and it raised broader questions about the intersection of cultural norms, gender expectations, and state power. Yet the news from Nigeria did not stop there. I soon encountered a story that was as emotionally charged as it was politically significant. The detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, issued a statement that resonated deeply with his supporters. In his message, he declared that he would rather die in detention than face trial in what he described as an illegal court. This was not a casual remark made in the heat of the moment. It was a profound expression of defiance and despair. Nnamdi Kanu, a figure who had become synonymous with the struggle for the rights of his people, was making it abundantly clear that he did not trust the judicial process that was being used to try him. His words carried the weight of decades of frustration and anger, and they served as a stark reminder of the deep divisions and unresolved issues that still plagued his country. The courage with which he spoke, even from behind bars, struck me as a testament to his unwavering commitment to his cause, regardless of the personal cost. Adding another layer of complexity to this already intricate tapestry of news, I learned that Prince Emmanuel Kanu, the brother of Nnamdi Kanu, had come forward with accusations aimed at the southeastern governors of Nigeria. According to Prince Emmanuel Kanu, these governors were not doing enough to secure the release of his brother, despite what he claimed was a condition set by the Nigerian president. He alleged that before the presidential elections, the son of the Nigerian president had promised that if sufficient political support was provided, Nnamdi Kanu would be released. However, that promise had not been fulfilled, leaving his family feeling betrayed and abandoned by those in power. It was a dramatic twist that underscored the intense political maneuvering that often occurs behind the scenes, where deals are struck and broken, and where personal relationships sometimes become entangled with the broader mechanisms of state power. As I read Prince Emmanuel Kanu's impassioned words, I could sense the deep frustration and anger that fueled his accusations. It was a reminder that in politics, Promises made in the heat of an election campaign can often vanish into thin air once the votes are counted and the power structures are firmly in place. I found myself reflecting on how these stories, though seemingly disparate in their geographical settings and subject matter, were all connected by the common thread of modern governance and the digital age. On one side of the world, the Finnish government was engaged in a complex dance with a global technology mogul over the control of digital data. On the other side, Nigeria was grappling with issues of immigration, governance, and political promises that had left ordinary citizens in a state of uncertainty. What struck me most was the way in which the actions of powerful individuals and institutions, be they government authorities or corporate titans, had such profound and far-reaching effects on the lives of everyday people. In Finland, the refusal of Elon Musk to release user data was a reminder that even the most advanced digital platforms must navigate the intricate maze of international law and privacy regulations. In Nigeria, the policies and decisions made by state officials affected not only the political landscape but also the social fabric of communities, touching on issues as personal as what one wears in public. As I delved deeper into the details of the Finnish case, I recalled a video that had been circulating online, in which a reporter explained the situation with an ease that belied the complexity of the issues involved. The reporter mentioned that the Finnish authorities had sent a formal request to Elon Musk, asking for detailed information about the digital activities of Simon Ekpa. The video showed a series of images, including a live photograph taken at the Kilammakosi Correctional Facility, where Simon Ekpa was reportedly being held. In that photograph, Simon Ekpa was captured in a moment that seemed to reflect a mixture of defiance and despair, a moment when he raised his fist in a manner that suggested a silent protest against the system that had brought him into custody. The imagery was powerful, and it left me wondering what exactly had transpired in that correctional facility. Was the raised fist a symbol of resistance, a final act of defiance in the face of overwhelming opposition? Or was it simply a human gesture, one that could be interpreted in many different ways? I could not be certain, but the image certainly resonated with me and served as a stark visual reminder of the tensions that were playing out on the global stage. The video also touched on the possibility that the visitor who had been present in the correctional facility might have had a personal connection to Simon Ekpa. Some speculated that this visitor was none other than Marian Sakaj-Javi, who was known to have been the ex-wife of Simon Ekpa. According to earlier reports, Marian Sakaj-Javi had once made it very clear that she did not want to be associated with Simon Ekpa following their divorce. However, more recent indications suggested that she might have reconsidered her stance, at least publicly, as she appeared to have made a press release that was intended to clarify her position. The idea that a former spouse might revisit a long-buried association was intriguing, and it added a personal, human dimension to a story that was already laden with political and legal implications. It made me think about how relationships evolve over time, and how the past can sometimes come back to influence the present in unexpected ways. At the same time that these events were unfolding in Finland, my attention was repeatedly drawn back to Nigeria, where the human stories were just as complex and compelling. The news about the deportation of Nigerian nationals from the United States of America was particularly heart-wrenching. I imagined the families who had spent years apart, the individuals who had built new lives in a foreign land, only to have their futures abruptly altered by a decision made thousands of miles away. The fact that 85 Nigerians had already been deported to Lagos, with another 116 still awaiting their fate, painted a picture of a process that was both bureaucratic and deeply personal. Nigerian officials were expressing their concerns, calling for a more humane approach to what was clearly a difficult and emotionally charged situation. I felt a deep empathy for those caught in the crossfire of immigration policies that seemed to disregard the personal toll such actions could have. It was a stark reminder that behind every statistic and official announcement, there were real people with hopes, dreams, and families who were directly affected by these decisions. The situation in Nigeria was further complicated by the announcement from Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State. I found it hard to believe that in a modern society, an official could propose a policy that would lead to the arrest of women based solely on their choice of clothing. Governor Charles Soludo's idea that women in public should be arrested if they were not wearing a bra or panties struck me as both archaic and absurd. It was a policy that not only seemed to have no basis in the Nigerian constitution, but also one that risked alienating and embarrassing the very citizens it was supposed to serve. I could imagine the outcry from women's rights groups and the general public, who would see this as an overreach of governmental authority into personal freedom. It was a clear example of how cultural and political dynamics can sometimes lead to policies that are out of step with the needs and values of the community. As I read more about it, I could sense a mix of disbelief and concern in the tone of many who discussed the matter. The idea that the state might police the personal choices of its citizens, particularly in such an intrusive manner, left me wondering what the underlying motivations could be. Was it a misguided attempt to enforce traditional values, or was there a deeper political strategy at play? I found it difficult to accept any simple explanation. The narrative surrounding the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, added yet another layer of drama to the unfolding story. Nnamdi Kanu, who had become a symbol of resistance and a champion for the rights of his people, was not one to mince words. When he stated that he would rather die in detention than face trial in what he called an illegal court, it was clear that he was making a profound and personal statement about the state of justice in his country. His words resonated with many who had long felt that the judicial system was being used as a tool to suppress dissent and silence voices of opposition. I could feel the intensity of his conviction, a conviction born not only out of political frustration, but also from years of personal hardship and struggle. His declaration was a powerful reminder that in the face of what he perceived as an unjust system, some individuals would rather choose death than compromise their principles. It was a statement that carried with it the weight of history and the pain of a long-standing conflict. In the midst of all this, Prince Emmanuel Kanu, the brother of Nnamdi Kanu, emerged as a vocal critic of the actions of the southeastern governors in Nigeria. Prince Emmanuel Kanu was not content to remain silent while his brother languished in detention. He accused the governors of failing to live up to a promise that had been made by the son of the Nigerian president before the presidential elections. A news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.